morning, everybody. So imagine your grandparents bank at their financial institution, and they've been there for a while and been faithful customers of that financial institution, only to find out later that for years all of their savings accounts, all of their checking accounts have been accruing some fees that they were unaware of. And you find out over those years that those fees have stacked up and have cost your grandparents hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars. How upset would you be? Your grandparents getting taken advantage of. Take the same scenario and apply it to maybe a brother or sister who are opening their first business. And they, in this day and age, you got to take Visa and MasterCard and Discovery, and you got to be able to take payments with debit card transactions. And so they go with a company that they trust, their financial institution, and use their point of sale equipment, only to find out that months later, all of the promises of the low rates that they were supposed to get, that 1.5%, really turned out to be 3% or 4%. And out of their sales transactions, cost your family member hundreds, thousands of dollars, because it wasn't the way it was when it was presented to them. And that's sort of what we saw with Wells Fargo and what they were doing. And so, as the first group pointed out, you got such pressure on the sales at all cost that you get that culture, like Rusty said, we just got to do it. We got to get it done. And you see those kind of things happening. And so it's sort of like the Wild Wild West out there in sales. And there's no correct training, there's no standardization, there's no compliance, and making sure that everybody is on the same page doing the same thing. And so that's what we kind of focused with our solutions. We're building our roadmap to success, and we tried to narrow it down to 3 points that we felt like Wells Fargo could do to really turn that entire situation around. Not just for the associates, but also, and more importantly, for the customers, for grandparents, for brothers and sisters, new businesses, savings, all of those things. And so we started with some building blocks, and that's what I have here, which kind of stack them up. So the first one was they need to develop new sales standards and best practices. You need to lower all the pressure of the sales and the points and everything. You got to have incentives because they're in business to be in business. But there needs to be a new structure. And then you've got to take that structure, which is this, and you've got to build your mandatory compliance training. We have that at Regions. It's our MAC training. We all know what that is. But you have that compliance training that's mandatory. And so everybody has to take the same courses with the same standards, and you have to take that test at the end. You have to mark that you acknowledge that you know what the standards are, that you read, and that you comply. And that way you develop that sort of standardization that everybody's on the same page, everybody's playing the game the same way, and you build that on top of your sales standards. You've got your mandatory compliance training. And then finally, you have to make sure that everybody's playing the game by the same rules. And that's where auditing and risk management come in. And you build this ladder of success with putting all 3 of these together. With auditing and risk management, you want to do that with an internal group, but you also want to do that with an external group that has no allegiance or ties to the company itself, but can come in and objectively view those standards, making sure that everyone is complying according to those standards, and then can give that report back to the company, and then the company can ensure that they're all doing that the same way. And we believe by putting these 3 things together, these solutions would help a company like Wells Fargo not only ensure that everyone is doing the same thing the same way, but most importantly, that their customers are being treated with respect, but also setting their customers up for financial success, and everybody wins.